Hello and welcome to the Homeless Consultants channel. My name is Paul B. I am the Homeless Consultant. And folks, you just cannot make this up. This video concerns why I feel so uncomfortable and frankly unsafe in my own workplace. The reason is because of these professionals who have astateophobia. And because they have astateophobia, they do really, really strange things, like stalking me. I started this video about 1 hour ago. The reason I had to restart now is because as I was literally raising the camera up here to set it up and start recording, one of these stalkers pulled in. You see, off on this side, they can see me in this parking garage at night, in the evening, because it's well lit, unless it's bright sun. So the car pulled in really, really slow, looking over to see if I'm here. Then, mysteriously, they suddenly, almost instantly appear over on that side. It's almost as if they sped up when they got out of my line of sight. And then they came down here. The thing is, since I had the camera in my hand, I pointed the camera over there and waited for them. Let me show you what I filmed. Okay? So notice what this car is doing. On the other side, to the right, if they had turned right, is an underground parking garage. That's where they were headed. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you another video. After they went in there, I walked over there to show you what it looks like, so you can see the little space they turned around in. And remember, this is somebody who works here, who knows this place perfectly well. They don't make stupid mistakes like that driving. Listen to this little clip I just filmed. Okay, so what that person did was they drove down here, and instead of going to the right and pulling into the underground parking garage, they went straight down, turned left right here where there's absolutely nothing, turned around, drove back this way where they can look right at me, and then they drove around to the underground parking garage. Okay, so what you have is one of the people who works in this building pulls in slowly, checks me out, sees that I'm here. They drive around and then they pull that little stunt where they're basically intimidating me, as you're going to see. And then they pull into the underground parking garage where they wanted to go in the first place. About 15 minutes later, they pulled out again, really slowly. Another intimidation tactic. They suddenly reappear over here as if they sped up their car when they were out of my line of sight, and they slowed down and drove out the parking lot. Now here's the thing. This is a Sunday night. This started at 7:30 in the evening. I opened this morning, and I'd just gotten through working about an hour before I started filming. So I was here the entire day, and again, my window faces outward into the parking lot. I can see anybody coming into the whole complex. Nobody the whole day came into the complex. It was just me, and one of our supervisors was there for a while. We were the only people in this entire big, huge building. An hour after I get done working, while I'm sitting out in this car, as you're going to see, I do all too often, one of these stalkers pulls in and does what you just saw. I want you to remember what you just saw, and remember the fact that this happened so often that it even happened as I was starting to film a video about how these people stalk me all the time. And with that, let's get into the regular video. One reason it took an hour for me to get back to this is because as I was scrambling to film this vehicle that wasn't supposed to be a part of this video at all, again, I knocked over a drink, and I had just opened it before this video to try to stay cool. The entire thing emptied out onto the floor. So it took me a long time to try to clean that, and I can't be barefoot or with socks because it's still too wet. Throughout that period, as I needed this light that I use so you can see me, the batteries are running out. So now you probably see it flickering, and it'll probably go out while we're filming here. If that happens, I'll try to lighten it up in post-production. So let's talk about why I feel so uncomfortable in my own workplace, and frankly, I just don't feel safe. Alright? To start out with, I want to say that, the building I work in is a big building. It has several businesses in it. I would guess there's about 500 to 700 people in this building. I don't know exactly, but under normal circumstances, before the stay at home and coronavirus. In my office, there's about 100 people. Of course, they're not here now either. They're still working from home. My coworkers in my business are pretty good to work with overall. All right. Frankly, I wouldn't hire most of them if I owned the company. That's my criteria for judging a coworker from a work perspective. But having said that, I also probably wouldn't hang out with them too much outside of work. But having said that, for people in Minnesota, they're pretty good to work with. I like them, and I care about them. We do have a lot of fun, and many of them do a good enough job where it's okay. All right. I mean, I've had worse. One reason for that. Before I get into that, let me mention one thing. While we're at work, though, when everyone was here in the building, these people never said nasty things about black people. They just didn't do it. Also, when we were all in the office together, they never said nasty things about women. They never said nasty things about Muslims. And the reason is probably because they would probably lose their job if they did. However, the entire time I've worked with them, they have frequently said nasty things about a couple of other groups, specifically Christians, what you would call maybe conservatives / Republicans / Trump supporters, and the homeless. See, they don't know that I'm homeless, so they make some nasty comments about the homeless while I'm sitting right there, and I have to just take it. Because nobody does anything about that. If they talked about blacks or women or Muslims, they would probably lose their job. Someone would do something about it. I'm sorry about the glare in my glasses. I'm trying to stop it. But when they talk about the homeless or Christians or conservatives, they're perfectly fine. And frankly, if I brought it up as an issue, the odds are that somehow, some way, I would be the one who would lose my job. And the reason is because Minnesota Nice is an absolute quagmire of hypocrisy and contradictions and double standards. Minnesota Nice is just a bunch of lies. The whole thing has been a myth from the beginning. Now, having said it with that introduction, I want to point out that the industry I work in is generally considered to be an industry where cool people work. People who are more hip, more just more themselves. They're not beholden to what other people expect them to do, and they tend to have more personality. They just have a little more going on, right? They're cool compared to like a different kind of business. When this building opened up, our company was the first one in here. We were the first company that took residence in this building, and we were here for a good 3 or 4 months before any of the other businesses moved in. So for about 3 or 4 months, we had the run basically of this whole building, although we just stayed on our own floor, or down in the common area. But I was one of the first people to come in. I would say I was one of the first 10 people to be hired. And again, there's about 100 now. So we had a lot of people come in, and I would say that by the time other businesses started moving in, we were about halfway there. So we probably had about 50 or 60 people. And again, these people are pretty cool. So as we're working together, it was fun. It was nice to work with them. When you're on break or at lunch and you're chatting with them, it was fun. They're nice people. They talk to you. You could have conversations and laugh and get to know each other. And in fact, we would even see each other outside of work sometimes. So it was really, really nice. And then the other businesses started moving in. The other businesses are what you would call traditional businesses. Okay, so you've got, won't get specific, but you know what I mean. If you go to any business park, you have basically all these same types of things. You have a law office, you have engineering firm. You just have all these, right, white shirt, or I call them blue shirts because they think they're white shirts, but they're not. These are the businesses that started moving in. Those people were very, very typical Minnesotans, which means that they're not friendly at all. They will not even look at you. They will not look you in the eyes. They are not approachable at all. They're very cliquish. They stay in their own little groups, and they have no social skills at all. So the contrast between them and us is striking. Our group is just a bunch of fun-loving, personable, fun people who will talk to anybody, look for the opportunity to do so. These other businesses that moved in are a bunch of these stuffed shirts. These people who think they're so important. They're busyness people. They're making deals. They're doing busyness. They're professionals. But they're really incredibly boring people and pretentious. So what we ended up with, see, I had an example here, but what happened was, as these businesses moved in, it was like this place that was so much fun, and it was just like I don't want to say like a clubhouse or anything like that. It wasn't like that. We're professionals as well, but you can be a professional without being a stiff, stuffed shirt. Okay, professional means you do a good job, and you do a responsible job. It doesn't mean you walk around like Beaker on the Muppet Show or something. But as these businesses started moving in, this building, it's like this big dark cloud just kind of slowly came over the building and just hovered there. This cloud of boring, pretentious blandness. Right? These people all look alike to me. I can't tell them apart. They have no personality. They won't talk to you. They won't look at you. Before... Now, granted, I won't say my coworkers don't stare at phones a lot, but there's only a few who really stare at their phones all the time. And when these people came in, every time that door opens to the building and someone walks out, they're staring at a phone. Just the whole universe around them, and they're just staring at that little box. As they walk in, they're staring at the box. As they walk through the parking lot, staring at the box. They've got the things like the old shaved head thing going, right? The shaved head thing. I've talked about it before, carrying the book bag for their computer gear and all that instead of a briefcase. Because it's hip and cool to do that, according to television, I think. I don't know if there's some TV show or something that made that cool, but it just looks kind of silly. I carry a book bag for my stuff, but I'm not walking around pretending that I'm something super special either. These people do. They look ridiculous. They look like little teenagers who just follow every trend that they see on TV. Their presence here just sucked the life out of this place. What was a fun environment and everything just became, we have to kind of stay in our enclave as we mill about the building, go into the common areas, the lunchrooms or what have you. We can try to talk to them, and you might get a word or two. There is one guy here, one out of, again, 500-700 people, one guy who actually is very nice. I get to talk to him once in a while. He's very nice. One. These people see themselves as professionals. They think they're all that, right? So they're doing busyness. They're making deals. I give you another example of what happened when it was just my company that was here. As people started working here, the parking lot had cars in it, all variety of cars. You had sedans and hatchbacks and maybe a couple pickup trucks and just different cars, and they're different colors. They're in different states, so some of them are pretty new, others are like mine, are almost destroyed, and everything in between. It was just a wide variety. When these people came in, all of a sudden the whole parking lot is completely full, and it's almost all egg-shaped clown cars. Those little cars that try to act like SUVs, or SUVs that try to act like cars, I don't know. And they're all either black or white. There's very few that are any other color. Like, there's a couple. There's like a gold one and a green one, but for the most part, they're all either black or white. How these people know which car is theirs, I haven't the foggiest idea, because they all look alike. And another thing came in here. There were a couple pickup trucks. There's a big pickup truck that comes in here, and you know what a big pickup truck means, right? There's also this little pickup truck down here that it only started coming in about a year ago. It has the management company's name on it. And this thing, I don't know, it comes and goes. The guy comes and parks his car next to it, and he takes the truck, and he apparently leaves this whole place. And then he's back. I don't understand, because it's this management company. I don't understand what's going on there. I don't really care. But the fact is, this little pickup truck's been, for the last year or so, sitting down here in the parking garage for the most part. All the time, 24/7, except when the guy's driving it. But other than that, the whole parking lot just became this pretentious, clown car, I saw it on the TV kind of thing. So the other thing you have, though, are some of these cars that are like very expensive or sporty, something that someone's going to drive around and they think they're really cool in it. So you get some of these guys driving through, like there's the one guy with the shaved head. He's driving this thing. To me, it looks like a hearse. I think it's hideous. I can tell by the curves that they're trying to be cool and stylish, but it's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. But this guy thinks he's hot stuff driving it. It's probably really expensive or something. And he'll pull in the parking lot and just drive really slow with the window down and just make sure everybody sees him. And for some reason, he has this attachment to me, too. When I'm in the parking garage just parking, he'll pull in about the time that I get here every time. I don't know why, because I come in at totally different times every day. There's no rhyme or reason to when I actually come in here. And he'll pull in close to me, and he just makes this big production. He literally just kind of moves and flourishes, and then he walks like this, swinging his arms like an orangutan kind of thing, and he's got the shaved head and all this. And he's just trying to make a point of, look at my car, and all I can think is, it's a great Detmobile, but it's pretty hideous. My car's been paid for 8 years. Sorry, I'm not impressed. But that's what these people are. They're trying to impress everybody. You know what I mean? Okay, I don't want to dwell on it, but sorry, I got my ice block here to try to stay somewhat cool. These people are just rotten. They're just bad people from what I can tell. And I hate to say that. I really do. I mean, I tried talking to them. I tried to get to know them. I tried to make friends out of them. But it's just like anything else in Minnesota. It's impossible. These people don't have any social skills. So I pretty much have had to, deal with my own company people. And everyone here, even the people in my business have noted that. They've all said, these people are stiff as a board. They're just boring. You can't even talk to them. They just make everyone feel really uncomfortable since they got here. Let's put it that way. Now, something happened about, I don't know, it was maybe 6 months after all these companies started moving in, and they came in pretty quickly. Over the course of just a few months, all the businesses were suddenly full. So we had 3 or 4 months of just us. It was great. And then over about 2 or 3 months, all these businesses moved in, and ever since then, it's just been awful. Because of them. They're just horrible. They're just horrible to have around here. They just suck the life and the joy out of everything. And I would say it was about 6 months after they started moving in that this one individual suddenly appeared. It's a tall, thin man with kind of salt and pepper hair, coiffured real nice and nice cut and all that. And he started appearing in the building all the time in the evenings. He would show up because I'm usually one of the last people out. Our business opens earlier, closes later than the others. And by the time I would be leaving, this guy would he just started suddenly appearing, and he'd pull in and go inside, and he'd carry a suitcase inside, and nobody knows what this guy does. There's no business that claims him. Nobody knows who this guy is. And by all appearances, he lives inside the office building. All right? Now, what happened was, at the time, when he started showing up, whenever I would go into the bathroom, because again, remember, later in the evening, there's very few people in the building. And whenever I go into the bathroom, this guy would suddenly show up in the bathroom within minutes. More often than is statistically reasonable. I would call it statistically significant. He entered, and the thing was, wherever he's staying is upstairs. So why would he come into the bathroom on my floor? Just a few minutes after I go in often. It's really, really creepy. Okay, and if basically what happened was the way he would kind of smile and say a few things. He looked a lot like he's flirting with me, if you know what I'm saying. I don't want to dwell on this, but I don't like it. It creeped me out. Okay, I don't go to the bathroom so some guy can follow me into the bathroom. That's not why I go there. I have other business to attend to when I'm in the bathroom. And the thought that as I leave, somebody's going over to lick the toilet I just sat on kind of creeps me out, if you understand what I'm saying. But this guy is considered a professional in the state of Minnesota, even though nobody knows what he does. Now here's the thing. Because I'm one of the last people out of here, and because I started staying in the car in this area more and more often as my other options were taken away, like when Walmart was taken away by the government, not allowing us to sleep out there, I had to start staying here more and more. And as I did so, I learned that this guy seems to live in the building, and he doesn't seem to have a job. He just lives here. For example, I noticed that in the middle of the night, this guy will just sit in the lobby, the huge building, all kinds of businesses, right? Multiple floors. He'll sit in the lobby and just sit in the chair and maybe read a book for a couple hours. Okay? He's not working in there. He's not doing anything. Sometimes when I would come out, he'd be in the lobby, but instead of sitting in a chair, he would sit on a ledge, and he just has his head bowed down looking at the floor. And he doesn't move. He's just looking at the floor. This is really spooky. Okay? And the fact that the guy seemed to be maybe possibly flirting with me or something, I don't like having that be the only person in the building with me. Okay? So that's him. Now, because the other people don't really notice this because they're not here at night, they certainly don't sleep in the parking garage like I so often have to do. They didn't really believe me when I would tell them about this guy. So I started calling him Sasquatch because I was having all these sightings, but no one else was. Now, over time, people have figured out, yeah, he is here, but it's just kind of a running joke because nobody believed me at first. Now, he's basically here all the time, right? But during the daytime when the businesses are here, he might be gone. But he's definitely here overnight, and he tends to show up just after everyone leaves or about the time the last people are leaving, and he leaves right before the other people come in, which is one reason why most people don't see him. But when I was out in the car, and if I'm sleeping in this garage, and you know how much I have diarrhea because of the rotten food I have to eat, I would go into the building to deal with it, and that was a benefit of being here. I have a key to get in. But I can't do it if I got some weirdo who's following me into the bathroom that often. Not every time, but too often. And it's a bathroom on the wrong floor. So I stopped using the bathroom here. So even while I'm sleeping here, empty, huge empty office building at night. I mean, there might be a car here once in a while, but for the most part empty. The businesses are closed. And I can't even go in and use the bathroom in the middle of the night because this creepy guy's in there. Now, as I'll show you later, I think who this is like a relative or maybe the brother of the guy, the manager of this place. And I don't know if he's like on the sexual predator registry or something and he can't get an apartment, but he doesn't seem to be lacking any money. He drives a much nicer car than me. He doesn't seem to be starving. He looks like he's carved up nicely with a haircut and everything. I don't understand it. I don't know what's going on here. But he's living in the office building, right? Now, let's see what else we got here. Yeah, I made a note here. The guy actually kind of, when he's in the lobby and stuff like that, he reminds me of Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. I mean, that's just the vibe I get from this guy. And it really makes me, and I've even said it to my coworkers, seriously. They think I'm joking, but I said it because I wanted it said, just in case. I have said, you know, if I disappear someday, you know, you might look to see if my skin is laying somewhere in the basement here, because this Sasquatch guy scares the crap out of me. And people laugh about it, but I'm serious. This guy scares the crap out of me. And if I'm going to be out here sleeping in a car, in the parking garage at night, and this guy's roaming around, apparently the only one out there with nothing to do, and for some reason he has to live in an office building. You see where I'm going with this. There's something wrong with this guy. And frankly, there's something wrong with his brother, or whoever that is. I'll tell you about that one later. There's something wrong with all these people. I mean, it's just Minnesota. After that, about a year later, another guy started coming in, also at night, but not as often. But he also seems to kind of live in the building. I can't see what he actually does. This guy is really bizarre. He's kind of balding and has the beard, and he stares at me all the time. He'll just stare at me. For example, one time I was sitting right where I am now. He was parked over there, the only car in this parking garage. It was really late at night, like 1 in the morning. He comes down the stairs there, and he looks at me, and as he walks all the way across to his car, which is about 200 feet away, he's staring at me the whole time, to the point where he had to turn his head back maybe 45 degrees or more to keep staring at me the whole time as he's walking. And he somehow never crashed into one of those concrete pylons. I'm sorry, folks, but that's weird behavior. Is that what a professional does, or is that what a freaking weirdo does? Okay, because I'm just sitting here. And remember, I was one of the first people in this building. My car is as distinctive as it gets. It's rusted to kingdom come. There's no other car like it in terms of color or style or year or anything. And I was one of the first people here. I'm here all the time. I work all the time. I work overtime when it's available. And unfortunately, I've increasingly had to stay here when I'm not working, in terms of just sitting and being out of the elements and sleeping. So the people here know I belong here. They know that perfectly well. If there's anybody they know belongs here, it's me, the guy who works here. Now, over time, at the present time, I would say I'm probably one of the first 3 people in here, because we've had turnover, people have left. The 2 people who hired me are no longer here. Okay? So, out of this building with 500-700 people in it, I was probably, at this point, one of the first 3 people who remain here that was in that building. Believe me, folks, if there's anybody who belongs here or who has been here for a long time, it's me. Me. And yet these people who came in months later, maybe even years later, they've got some issue where they feel the need to just stare at me like that guy, but they don't do it with anybody else. Now the question is, why? Why me, but not the other people? I wonder why. What's different about me? Anyway, I call that guy the man who stares at men, because that's exactly what he does. And again, just like a guy who follows me into the bathroom, that scares the shit out of me. That is not what a normal person does. Remember, my window faces the parking lot outside. I see this guy sometimes when he comes in and he gets out of his car and he walks into the building. If there's other people around, he does not stare at them. But every time I'm out when he's there, he stares right at me, even if it means turning his head to some uncomfortable angle. There's a pattern there, folks. Sorry, there's a pattern there. Early on, when I started working here, this is really before I started staying here every night, or many nights in a row, but for various reasons, primarily because of the weather. The weather in the winter, it was so bad and stuff. Well, actually, I'm sorry, this wasn't the winter, this was more the summer. I think at the time, what it was I'm staying here for several hours after work because I didn't want to drive in this horrible traffic, because there's no enforcement of the laws here. And it's an incredibly dangerous drive back to where I usually would sleep at Walmart or what have you. Now the thing is, there's only a couple of ways to get there, because in Minnesota they have a huge river and they only bothered to put 2 places to cross the river. One of them's way far away, the other one's a bit closer. They're both far away. They're both a nightmare to drive because there's no law enforcement. So people just drive like maniacs. It's incredibly dangerous. I don't need to risk it. This car is my home. So what I would do is I would come out of work and I would come out here with my computer and just get something done. And I might spend hours doing that. And then, 1, 2 in the morning, I might leave when I feel it's a little safer to drive. And what happened early on were these Somali gangs. These are people from, presumably from Minneapolis, Ilhan Omar's district. They would come out here and they turn this place into their party central. So the garage upstairs, well, it's not a garage. Upstairs, it's the parking lot, so it's out in the open. The Somali gangs would come out here at night, and they would start yelling and screaming and smoking pot and whatever and drinking, and they would just litter the place with garbage. The whole parking lot would just be full of crap, right? Then, not too long after that, we started getting a couple of cars coming down here with these Somalis in it, and they were doing drugs. So they would come in and they would drive to one or the other stairwell, and they would go in the stairwell and do drugs. While I'm just sitting there, right? Didn't feel really comfortable with that. So I talked to the custodian at the time, and he said, well, call the police. So I did. So I called the police, and it took about 2 or 3 times of the police challenging these guys, but finally they stopped and they never came back. Somewhere in that period, not when I was here, but at some point, they also sprayed graffiti all over down here against the wall. And the company had to come out here and, airbrush the wall off. But after I called the police a few times, these Somalis stopped showing up, including the ones upstairs. But for a while, it was really getting out of hand. They were just coming in and taking over the place at night, while I'm here by myself. And at the time, it was about the time that Sasquatch was just starting to come in every night and live here. So it was really just me, and I did not need that. I don't need to be trying to sleep in a car when I've got that going on around me. But I got rid of it, or, the police did. Okay, so that's kind of the history of what's been going on here. Remember, at the time, I wasn't really sleeping here. I was just staying here before I would leave much later in the evening or early morning. In my video called Fresh Garbage for the Homeless, I show you how I go around and I pick up the trash here. Okay? Now, since the Somalis have been gone for, that was more than 2 years ago. Haven't had them come back since. Nothing of the kind. When I'm picking up the trash out here, like I showed you in that video, it is trash left by the so-called professionals in this building. All those snotty, stuck-up Minnesotans who won't talk to you or look at you. They just throw their garbage all over the place. Before I made this video earlier today when I got out, I told you I started doing this about an hour after I got out of work. Well, one of the things I did in that hour before I started was my weekly trash pickup that's left by these professionals. It isn't left by anyone else. At this point, I'm here pretty much all the time, so I know exactly who's here. And it's them who's dumping the trash. Let me show you. I put the bag out here. Let me show you. I made a video earlier. That's the bag of today's haul. And here's some items that are in there, okay? We have a beer can and a water bottle. Somebody's drinking beer on the job. Professionals. We have, 5 cups? Now, unless somebody's really trying to keep their coffee warm during a heat wave, it seems to me that maybe they had 5 people out here, and you're telling me that not one of them could bother themselves to, take their trash inside? They just leave it sitting there in the stairwell? Really? Really? These are professionals, remember. Minnesota professionals. How about this mask? That's what the masks are for. They're to create more litter. Thank you, Governor Tim Walz. And then my favorite, though, is this one. It is the rotting strawberries. The strawberries have been sitting out there for a week, maybe a little bit more. And one of the events that happened here when I got stalked by the manager of this place, really creepy event, you'll see, when he was so concerned with me and everything, he didn't even apparently notice the strawberries, or he didn't do anything about it, because the homeless guy, more than a week later, finally went over and took care of the strawberries. And you can see it left all the ants below there and everything. That's why I don't have that bag in this car right now, you see. But all that junk and the other stuff that I picked up, the papers and candy wrappers and stuff, that's left by these professionals. Because, folks, I know this place better than anyone else. I've been here longer than anyone, and I'm the only one who's here as often as I am. Except maybe Sasquatch. And I'm telling you right now, my coworkers don't park down here. Period. They just don't. So the people who are leaving this trash here are those professionals. The Smiley gangs aren't coming back. No one's coming in here who shouldn't be here. It is them who's dumping this trash. That's how irresponsible these professionals are. Okay? Now what I want to do is just kind of tell you a bit about what I have to put up with here in terms of the stalking and the astateophobia. Remember, my coworkers, at least to my knowledge, they don't know that I'm homeless. If they find out, they find out, whatever. But I'm not gonna spit it out to them, okay? So the other people in this building who, most people don't pay any attention to you at all. And I bet you most people here don't have the foggiest idea that I'm here as often as I am. I mean, so what? There's people coming in and out all the time. There's a bunch of businesses here. And they don't pay attention to other people. That's Minnesota nice. But another aspect of Minnesota is that you've got this weird stalking behavior. There's something about Minnesotans. It goes beyond Mrs. Kravitz, you know, from Bewitched. This nosiness, having to put your nose in everyone else's business. They go out of their way to do it in such a way that it's really, really creepy. And it involves what I can only call stalking. So, to give you an example of what I mean, when I first wrote this to make this video, I had stayed at the hotel the previous 2 nights, right? And so I'd spent a whole bunch of money. It was $80 a night, which if you do the math is $2,400 a month, which is why I don't stay there every single night throughout the month. I stay there 2 days a week at most. It drains everything I earn to stay there 2 nights a week. Checkout is at 11 in the morning. It was a heat wave, and I went and I ran errands and got groceries, and then I went to the office. I ended up here at the office with 45 minutes to spare, 45 minutes before I had to go into work. So it's a heat wave. I come down into the parking garage where the sun is not beating down on me. Remember, at the time I did have climate control, but all I had was a vent. I never had air conditioning. But this window didn't open. It's incredibly hot. So I came down here to cool off for 45 minutes before I went into work. Now, in this garage were about 5 or 6 employee cars from other businesses here. Professionals, remember. Alright? Less than 5 minutes after I got here, random time, the little white pickup truck with the management company emblem on it pulls in next to his car and sits there with his lights on. How long? 10 minutes. Sat there for 10 minutes with his lights on in the truck. Then he gets out of the truck and he walks over to his car, which is parked next to it, and he gets into the car. Just for a second. He comes out and he starts walking straight toward me, just a beeline straight for me. And he's got something in his hand. And then all of a sudden he gets about halfway to me, and all of a sudden he just kind of like changes his whole scene. He suddenly starts looking up, and he pulls out a camera. And he starts like pointing the camera up at the ceiling in a parking garage. And he starts, now granted, there are lights here that are blown out because I showed you in that video with the trash how this is a very poorly built building, the parking garage. And the rain falls right through like a waterfall and it blows out these lights. Of course, where he was, I know because, you know, I'm in here all the time, there aren't any blown out lights. The blown out lights are over there. He was over there. And he pulls out the camera and starts, you know, pretending to take pictures up there, but he keeps kind of swinging toward me, taking pictures. So he walks halfway toward me, directly beeline, and then he just like he has a second thought, and he's like, oh, I don't want to do that. And he, instead of confronting me or whatever his issue is, he suddenly pretends he's taking pictures of a concrete ceiling. Alright? So I sat and I watched that for a few seconds, and I just said, this guy is creepy. If this is Minnesota's idea of a professional, I'm out of here. Start the car, and I leave, and I go upstairs, and I spend the next 40 minutes sweating to the oldies upstairs. The sun beating down on me during a heat wave. And then I go into work just smelling like a sewer. Why? Because some creepy professional, the guy who represents the management company, instead of just walking over and saying, what are you doing here? Although I don't know why he would say that, because I've been here longer than anyone else. Everybody knows I belong here. But as you're going to see, they've got a problem with me. Not anyone else here, but me. Why is that? What's different about me? I wonder. What could it possibly be that's different about me? Maybe it's my lazy eye. Maybe that's it. Or maybe it's because I'm homeless. Maybe that's the reason. Because astateophobia would cause something like that, wouldn't it? Let's see. That same day, so I went up there and I parked at the end of a train of cars, right? So there were a whole bunch of spaces. Probably, oh geez, when I wrote it down, like about 30 spaces or so. No, not about 30. No, I think it's more like 20. 20 spaces empty past me. All right, and I park all the other cars. When I pulled in, there were cars to the left. I pull into the right, and I leave a gap. And then there's a bunch of empty spaces. All the cars over here are parked like over the line. They're like parked right in the center of the line instead of in the lanes, and they're like sideways. So the first person pulled in and got it completely wrong, professional. And then all the other boneheads just followed whatever he was doing. So they pull in sideways as well, and they park right over the line instead of between the spaces. And there's this whole train of cars that did that, right? So I'm just like, well, somebody's got to show some kind of intellect here. So I leave a gap and I park between the lines like you're supposed to in a parking lot, right? So when I came out, let's see, what is it? I came out 4 hours later. Well, yeah, I had to get the ice packs out of the car. I forgot to put them in the fridge. So I came out for the ice packs, and this car that always wants to park next to me had somehow wedged its way in between me and the other car next to me that was parked sideways. It was so close I couldn't even open my driver's side door. Remember, there's 20 empty spaces in the other direction. But he pulls in there. Why? Because every time this guy parks next to me, which is often, he looks inside my car. I know it because, again, my window faces the parking lot, you see. I can see what happens out there. So this guy in this white car has this desire to park next to my car no matter what it takes, so that he's in a position where he can look inside my car, which he does. Can you guess which car it was at the beginning of this video that pulled in here when the place is completely closed, did the little loop-de-loop and staring at me and intimidating me? It was a little white car, wasn't it? I don't know for sure if it was the same one. I'll have to look at the video later and zoom in to see. It sure looked like that guy. This guy frequently, no matter where I park, I've actually started parking the lot. I've started parking like a dozen spaces down, so that it would be absolutely ludicrous for this person to park next to me, and he would have to walk further. That's what he gets. And he finally kind of stopped doing it. But whenever I would park, 1, 2, 3 spaces away from the other cars, he would pull in right next to me. And then he would swing around to his other side and pretend to be digging something out of his car, but he'd be looking in my car. I've never seen him look in anyone else's car. Isn't that interesting? When he comes in, because my window faces the lot, when he pulls in next to someone else, he doesn't even glance into their car. Isn't that interesting? But he looks right into my car. Isn't that fascinating? I wonder why. What's different about me? I mean, obviously I'm supposed to be there. I'm one of the first 3 people or so at the present time in this entire building who was here. I work here. I work here a lot. Interesting, isn't it? On the third break, no, let's see, what was it? I had to come out on the third break. What was this for? I don't know. Doesn't matter. So I came out anyway, and within a moment of time, Sasquatch suddenly appeared. Sasquatch pulls into the parking lot. It was about 2 minutes after I got outside, and okay, and then about 2 hours later, it was time to leave. So I left. Now, again, when I leave, it's at a random time because it takes a different amount of time, and I'm not one who just sees the clock and I'm out the door. I clean up things. I actually work. If I have to work a little extra to finish things up, I will do it, and then I leave. So it's pretty random when I leave. It can be anywhere from this time to a half hour later every day, when I leave. So it's totally random. Well, what happened? I walk outside the door. I open the door to leave the office, and down the hall, there goes Sasquatch just sauntering by. Big empty building, nobody in this place, and at that one point of time, Sasquatch just happens to be walking through that little narrow area at the end of the hallway. Okay, he's headed for the lobby, you know, where he sits there and just stares at the floor and does weird stuff like that. So I go to the bathroom and I wait. I waited about 2 minutes, and then I go outside, and Sasquatch is still out there by his car. But next to him is the man who stares at men. So you got both of these guys, the only people in the entire parking lot. I need to come down here to this parking garage, and they're standing right by the door to where I have to go into the door to get down to the parking garage. So I walk all the way around instead. I'm not going near these guys. And the whole time I walked, when I was in their line of sight, both of them staring right at me, following with their eyes. Now you tell me, is that what a normal professional does, or is that what a freaking weirdo does? If there's someone else in this parking lot and they're coming into the building, coming out of the building, getting out of their car, sitting in their car, it never even occurs to me, oh gee, maybe I should just stare at them for many minutes. As they're walking from here to there, I should stare at them and follow them and never let my eyes leave them the whole time. It doesn't even occur to me to do that. And if I did it with a woman, I would probably expect her to call the police or something, right? That's weird. But they do it with me and no one else. Isn't that interesting? I wonder why they do that. I wonder why they would do that with me. No one else. I sat down there and I didn't even move my car because I didn't know what's going to happen. Again, these two guys, I worry about them skinning me alive and eating my internal organs for dinner. You know, with a Farber beans and a nice bottle of Chianti. And that's what you're dealing with these guys. So I sit in that car. It was 20 minutes later before these guys left. One of them pulls out, and he's just nice and slow down there, because when you drive nice, it doesn't make any sense. The normal speed to drive down there is, you know, like this. He's driving like this, which is where, and I see it all the time, they're sitting there doing the rubberneck thing. As they drive, they're staring, looking in the parking garage to stare at me. A couple minutes later, Sasquatch followed, did the same thing, nice and slow. And then all of a sudden I hear their cars taking off at a normal speed. Isn't that interesting how they go slow right in that little area where they can see in here, but nowhere else? Interesting. So finally, I could move my car and I could eat some food, and I went to sleep. I woke up at, 5:45 in the morning. 5:45 in the morning. I had to go do my laundry, which opened up at 6 a.m. The only other vehicle on the lot was that little pickup truck that's here all the time. I kind of stretch out and I just moved a few things, and then I went to start the car. As I start the car, this red car pulls around the parking at 5:45 in the morning. As I'm starting my car, this red car pulls around into here. They pull into the entrance of the parking garage and they stop at the entrance. They block the entrance to the parking garage. And another white-haired guy, this is the guy who seems to be the building manager, who I think is a relative or maybe the brother of Sasquatch. This guy's another freaking weirdo who stares at me all the time. This guy parks, he blocks the exit to a parking garage that's utterly empty except for me in this car and that little pickup truck sitting over there. And then he gets out of his car and he stands next to his car and he just stares directly at me. I ask you again, folks, is that what a professional does, or is that what a freaking weirdo does? 5:45 in the morning. This guy is so creepy. And my light went out. Told you it was going to happen. I'll try to brighten it in post. These guys scare the living crap out of me, and they give me so much attention that they do not give to anyone else here, period. And there's no reason for it because I work here. I have worked here longer than they have. And I have every right to be here. There are people who come in here for various reasons at all hours of the day and night. Even at night, you'll have one of these people come in sometimes for a short period to pick something up or for several hours. It can happen all the time. They're free to do so. It's their business. They do what they have to do, right? So if I'm here, why are they so concerned with me? I'll give you an example. One of my coworkers, before the coronavirus took everyone working at home, one of my coworkers, for some reason, when we would leave at night, she would sit in her car up there for a full hour, 60 minutes, on her phone. And I don't know if she's cheating on her husband or what, or she's a social media addict or something, but she would sit there for 60 minutes. While that happens, whenever one of these weirdos would come in, like Sasquatch or the man who stares at men, or perhaps even this, I don't think at that time I really saw the manager. But when one of these people who wants to stare at me all the time would pull in there, guess what? I never once ever saw them pay the slightest hint of attention to this woman who's just sitting in her car for an hour. Ever. But they always pay attention to me. Isn't that interesting? Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Maybe it's because since these people are so interested in staring at me, they see me when I'm in here sleeping. And therefore they know that I'm homeless. Even though they know I work here, they know I'm homeless. And what do you call it when you have a problem with a person for no other reason than because they don't have a place to live? It's called astateophobia. It's the moral equivalent of racism, or sexism, or Islamophobia, homophobia. It's the instinctive, without any thought whatsoever, hatred and disgust of a person for some characteristic of theirs. That's why they don't pay attention to any of these busyness people who also sit in their cars, maybe for as much as an hour, yapping on their phones or whatever. They don't pay attention to my coworker who sat there every single night for a full hour after work. Her car and my car are the only cars in the lot unless Sasquatch is there. But when these people come in, they pay attention to me and they don't even look in her direction. Don't even care. It's called astateophobia, folks. Now, if you have astateophobia, that's one thing. If you have a hatred of the homeless, that's a character problem that these people have. And Minnesotans have astateophobia. But it's a different story to take your astateophobia to where you're engaged in these kind of stalking behaviors. Are you serious? A building manager pulling in and blocking the exit to a parking garage at 5:45 in the morning, stepping out of his car and just sitting there and staring at me over the hood of his car. Folks, that isn't what a normal person does. If these people want to call themselves professionals, then I would say this. If they've got some kind of an issue, if they've got some kind of a problem that they don't like, if I'm doing something wrong, they should go to my boss and tell them about it. And say, hey, whatever their problem is, I don't know. I'm not hurting anybody. In fact, I'm helping. I'm the one who chased away the Somali warlords. I'm the one who chased away the people who were spraying graffiti all over this place. I'm the one who picks up the trash here. Nobody else does. Okay, in fact, well, I don't know if I've ever showed you these videos. I'm even the person, I emptied the big ashtray out there because no one else does and the thing catches fire all the time. I mean, I'll empty that thing and go throw it all away. No one else does it. The management doesn't do it. The custodians. When it's icy out there, I will go out there with my shovel in the back and I will do the sidewalk so that these people don't get hurt. That's me doing this. And the only people these people have the only person that these people have a problem with is me. Now, why is that? Is it because I'm a bad, horrible person, a big evil monster, a threat to everybody here? Or is it because maybe I'm the best employee in my company, and apparently I'm the best tenant of sorts in this entire business park? Because I don't dump my trash here like they do. I pick up the trash. I don't just sit there and do nothing when you got a bunch of street gangs up here tearing the place apart and leaving garbage all over the place and spraying graffiti. I fixed the problem. The management didn't do that. I did it. You see, folks, I've always been an observer. For one thing, it's a safety issue. You should always be aware of your environment. Always. But also, I'm a curious person. I have intellectual curiosity. I look for things that are happening, and I look for patterns. That's why I notice things that other people don't notice. I noticed that Sasquatch is living in the building. The other people in this building didn't get it until I pointed it out to them. And now all of a sudden they're, hey, you're right. But they never noticed it. They're just oblivious to what's going on right in front of their own eyes. I'm the one who can sit in Cub Foods parking lot and notice that all the prostitutes are working out there and the drug dealers. The people at Cub Foods, they're just completely oblivious to it. And they call the police and tell them to get me out of their parking lot instead of getting the drug dealers and the prostitutes out, you see. Because that creates work for them if they're told about those things going on in their parking lot. So I'm an observer. I do that a lot. Now, because I do this channel and stuff, I have the camera out more often than most people would, or more than I would, because I have to gather this evidence of this stuff for the channel. But there's a difference between being an observer and just being a freaking stalker. You know, me observing things, while I'm aware of what's going on out there, I can't tell you in detail what these people are doing because I don't sit there and stare at them. I don't know. I mean, I can tell you that there are people in this business, these businesses, who come out here and they sit in their car for a half hour or an hour. But that's because I come out, I might be out for an hour, or I come out and I see them in the car, and then I come back an hour later and they're still in the car, and I can figure it out. But I'm not staring at them for 1 hour to determine that they're sitting in their car for an hour. You see, there's a difference between observing and stalking. Another point that's worth making is that when this building was originally built, it was for a government contract. It was very, very, very high security and very high surveillance. Now that contract apparently went down the toilet. So all the wonderful gizmos and gadgets they had in there, they mostly pulled them out. But how do I know what's really been pulled out of this building? How did Sasquatch know I was going into a bathroom on a different floor so often that within maybe 2 minutes this guy could make it into that bathroom when there's no one else in the building? And he could do it, oh, I don't know, 1 out of 5 times that I go to the bathroom, which makes no sense. He's not even on my floor. How could he do that if he wasn't able to see movement throughout this building? And he's apparently, from what I can tell, I think, I don't know, but the evidence seems to show that he has some relationship with this building manager of a building that has all this surveillance stuff put into it. Now, I don't know. I'm speculating when it comes to that. I don't know. But there are some other things I have heard from people who know that this building originally was meant to house some kind of nasty stuff. So I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there too far, but I wanted to point out a little bit so that you understand that there is at least a very real possibility that these freaking weirdos who stare at me are not only staring at me, but they might be staring at me while they're at home with a box of popcorn, if you know what I mean. And from what I can tell, they're probably naked when they do it. But I don't have a choice, do I? I have nowhere else to go to sleep. I used to go to the Walmart parking lot where they allowed us to, but somebody in the government said, nope, we're not going to allow it. We don't like homeless people. They're out of here. They can't sleep there overnight. This person over here can sleep there overnight because they're a well-bred professional. We like them. They're just driving down the road and they had to get some sleep so they don't fatigue and drive into a school bus. It's okay if they stay there overnight, just once. But if there's someone who comes in there every night and they're sleeping, even though Walmart allows it, we don't personally like it. So we're going to stop Walmart from allowing it. So I had to come here. I didn't have a choice. Believe me, if I had a choice, I would not be sitting in a place where I have pretty good reason. I'm not sure. I'm not saying this is the way it is. I could be wrong. I'm not paranoid about this stuff. But I observe things. And over 3 years, one thing I've learned is that there's too many coincidences. There's no such thing as a coincidence after a certain number of coincidences. There's a reason for it. Something's going on. There is no excuse for these people showing up where I am within 1 or 2 minutes as often as they do when they're supposed to be somewhere completely different, and what I'm doing is completely random. It isn't even according to a schedule. It doesn't make any sense unless there's some kind of surveillance involved. And if they have that kind of surveillance, there's no reason they can't wire it through the internet and just sit there and watch it at home naked. Remember, Sasquatch at least seemed to be flirting with me. And the other man stares at me like he's raping me with his eyes. And then this building manager, what a creepoid. Who in the world does that? Blocks the exit so I can't get out of this huge parking garage unless I run up the stairs, and just steps out of his car and stares at me at 5:45 in the morning. Who's the weirdo here, folks? Is it the guy who doesn't have any choice and he sits in his car and minds his own business, works on things, learns, studies, researches, makes these videos, plays a little guitar, sleeps, and then goes in and works and does a better job than anyone else in that office? And when he's out here, he cleans up the place after these professionals who dump their trash all over the place, chase off people who might harm this property, basically doing the things that, I don't know, a manager is supposed to do, but he's failed completely at doing any of it. And yet this guy's got an issue with me. To give you one final example of what I'm talking about here, there was, after the stay-at-home order started, I was not out here at first. Okay, so it was a couple weeks before I came out here, and I came out here mainly to get away from the weather. So I came into the underground garage, and as I got here, it just kind of felt comfortable, and I started staying here more and more and more until it was almost every night. Well, but I'd leave in the daytime. Well, I was here in the morning, and it was about 9 or 10 in the morning. I don't even remember what day of the week. And remember, there were a fair number of cars upstairs because all these people were violating the stay-at-home order. None of these were considered essential. But they didn't care. Whatever. They just came in and violated the stay-at-home order. Well, I was out here one time, and this is in the daytime, and it looked like that building manager, the guy who blocked access to this thing, the guy who I think might maybe be related to Sasquatch, letting this crazy guy live in the building. And he was looking around through the stairwell. I don't know for sure it was him, but I think he was here at this time. But for some reason, people were taking an interest in me. And gee, what do you know? About, 15 minutes later, all of a sudden a police officer pulls in. Now, again, I've been here for 3 years. The police do not come in here. They don't patrol the place. The only time they've been here that I've seen at all is when I called them to take care of these Somalis. They don't come in here. There's no reason to. They can't really see in here. In the daytime, you can't see in this garage. At nighttime, you can see perfectly clear. So they know as they drive by, they know I'm sitting here, or that this car's here. But they don't care. It's an office park. I mean, so what? There's a car in the parking lot. This is the way it's supposed to be. It's a business, right? Day and night, cars come and go. This was in the daytime. This was like 10 in the morning or something like that. And a police officer pulls in. And he pulls up, and he drives up, and he goes, and I'm just waiting to see because I figure he's going to come around here, and he doesn't. And then about 3-4 minutes later, he suddenly comes around. And he pulls into the garage, and he stops to let his eyes adjust, or he didn't stop, he slowed down, and as he's coming in, he sees me, and then he starts making the beeline toward me. And he comes over here, and he just, so what's going on? What are you doing here? And I'm just thinking, this is a business park. There's a whole bunch of cars upstairs violating the stay-at-home order, and you feel the need to come down here and talk to me, the guy who's sitting in a car that you could have no idea I was sitting in this car, right? So obviously, one of these creeps called the police on me, and when the police got there, they went and talked to them, and they said, oh yeah, there's this guy down in the parking garage. And remember, they know that I work here. I've been here longer than all but maybe 2 or 3 other people out of 500 to 700 people. They know I belong here. Period. And yet the police come and they made me prove that I work here. And I was honest with the officer. I said, look, I work here. Okay, I can't now because of the stay-at-home order, but I've got to have a place to stay. I'm homeless. I don't have anywhere to go. I can't stay at home because I'm homeless, and Governor Walz doesn't have the intellectual capacity to figure it out. And interestingly enough, the officer was like, as soon as I said Governor Walz, he's just like, oh, God. You know, so at least some people can figure this out. And this is before all the police stuff, by the way, all the riots and everything. So some people can figure out that Waltz doesn't know what he's doing. But this officer, he goes through all that, and then when he leaves, once again, it's a good, 2, 3, 4 minutes before he finally pulls out here. As if he was going and touching bases with whoever called the police in the first place. Now, let me ask you this again. If you're a professional, is that what you do to somebody who works in your building just because they're sitting in their car? I mean, they'd only been here maybe 20 minutes. How did they know? How did they not know I was just on my lunch? 30 minutes, I'm sitting in my car eating my lunch. How do they know that? Why would you call the police on someone who is supposed to be in that building under normal circumstances? They don't know if I'm supposed to be here. All these other people are violating the stay-at-home order. Why couldn't I be doing it? And maybe I'm just eating my lunch or something. How do they know? They don't know. See, this is just pure harassment. It's intimidation. And it brings me right back to what I started with at the beginning of this video. As I was about to film this car pulls in. It appears, I'm not sure, but it appears to be the car that always tries to park next to me so the guy can look inside my car, but not anybody else's. He pulls in really slow so that he can adjust his eyes and see that I'm in here. And then all of a sudden he's over there and he does this absolutely incomprehensible loop-de-loop, which makes no rational sense for somebody who works here and knows this place. And then he pulls into the underground parking garage where he meant to go in the first place, where there's no sun to beat down on his car, and he can just get out and go straight to the elevator. This is what I have to deal with all the time in this place. And yet, again, I'm an observer, and I ask questions of other people. Nobody else is dealing with this. The woman who sat up there for an hour after work every single night, nothing. People don't even look at her. But I get this all the time. Cars driving up here and they slow down as they get right in the area where they can see in here. And you can just see them sometimes with the light right. You can just see them rubbernecking, looking in here. Why? Why? What's it matter? What's the big deal? Pulling down there and going really slow so they can look in here. Because you have to kind of let your eyes adjust. You have to slow down. Doing creepy things like that. Doing creepy things like following me into the bathroom. Doing creepy things like just sitting in the lobby. Right at the time I'm leaving for the day, somebody comes out of the building and then they just stand right at the door where they know I have to go in to get to my car. And they just stare at me the whole time. These are what Minnesotans call professionals. I call them astateophobic professional stalkers. Because that's what they do best, folks. They stalk and they hate. They're certainly not doing anything to help this homeless person. They're doing everything they can to hurt this homeless person. But not one of the other 500 to 700 people in this building. This is what it is, folks. And that is why when I come into my workplace, I feel incredibly uncomfortable. I feel like everybody's staring at me here, and it isn't because I'm paranoid. It's because they are. I mean, I just showed you a video right there. I see these people all the time. Their eyes directly at me, but nobody else. I see these people coming to the bathroom all the time. This doesn't make sense, folks. This doesn't make any sense. And some of these guys are so weird. I mean, just so Buffalo Bill that I worry for my safety being here. These people are freaking weirdos. I'm just a guy who doesn't have a home to go to after he's done working. So I come out here and I do work on other things. And I mind my own business. But what I don't do is drive upstairs when I see there's one particular individual I have to stalk, and when I see them pull in, all of a sudden I feel the need to pull my car up so that I can pull right next to them and look inside their car, and I can just block the exit to the parking lot and get out of my car and just stare at them. See, I don't do those things, do I? Because I'm not a freaking weirdo. I'm just a guy who doesn't have a home to go to after he's done with a hard day's work. Now let me ask you one last question. If it was a woman who works here who was experiencing what I'm experiencing, a man who every time she goes to the bathroom, an inordinate amount of time, a guy from another floor is standing outside the bathroom when she walks out, looking at her, maybe kind of flirting with her a bit. It just doesn't make any sense. He's not even on that floor, but whenever she goes to the bathroom, more often than not, this guy's just standing there right outside the bathroom and trying to flirt with her. The woman's in the parking, she's eating her lunch, and someone pulls into the parking garage and blocks the exit so she can't get out, gets out of the car and just stares at her. This woman's sitting in her car, and this man comes down the stairs, and for 200 feet walking, he just stares at her, even if he has to cock his head 45 degrees as he's walking to do it. How do you think a woman would feel if that happened to her? And if she raised an issue about it, do you think they would do something about it or not? You know they would do something about it. She could go to a lawyer. I can't do anything about it. What if it was a black person? What if it was there aren't many black people who work here. This is Minnesota, right? They don't really like black people in Minnesota. I'm sorry, folks, but there is a lot of racism here in Minnesota. Not institutionalized, but individuals. What if I was black and I've got people staring at me but nobody else? I'm black, and whenever I go into the bathroom, within a minute or two, the same person comes into the bathroom, and let's say he's, instead of giving me a look of love or raping me with his eyes, he's giving me a look like, we don't like your kind here. How often would that have to go on before that black person would have a complaint to make against this management of this building and all these people, these professionals in this place who are doing that to him? And what do you think would be done about it if they were black? I think something would be done about it, don't you? I bet you he could even go to a lawyer, right? But this happens to me because I'm homeless, and I can't do anything about it. But I wanted to document it here. I want it on the record what's going on in this place. I do not feel comfortable in my own workplace, and it's only because of, well, I mean, it isn't because these people are generally rotten people. That's just Minnesota. That doesn't make me feel uncomfortable here. It just makes me feel sad that these people are so pathetic. But this handful of creeps in this place who have an issue with homeless people, and they have made it their life's purpose, apparently, to even on a Sunday night, when the entire day there wasn't a single car that came into this building, this huge building, and then right when I'm sitting in my car an hour after that, all of a sudden they show up and they have to do this little intimidation thing. Seems like something's going on, doesn't it? I don't claim to know exactly what's going on, but again, the pattern is there. Pattern recognition. There's a handful of freaking weirdos in here who not only make me feel incredibly uncomfortable, not just when I'm in this car sleeping, but when I'm at work. Because I can't go into the bathroom without worrying about a weirdo following me in there. I can't walk to and from my car. I can't go out and just get some air. I can't do anything without worrying that one of these guys is upstairs with a telescope and a camera and his pants pulled down. I don't feel comfortable in this place. And it isn't because of the people I work with. They're not the ones doing it. It's these professionals. These professional stalkers, including the building manager. That's all I have for you here, folks. This video went on quite a while, but I had to document what's going on here. This needs to be documented. This is absolutely disgusting. And it should be more than obvious that the only reason it's happening to me, and only me, is because of what makes me different than everyone else here. It isn't that I sit in my car for many hours at a time. There's others who do that. It isn't because I'm here on off hours when I'm not working. There's plenty of others who do that here. It's because I'm homeless. And that's called astateophobia, the moral equivalent of racism or homophobia or sexism. It's just plain hatred. And hating is one of the things that Minnesotans do the best. Thank you so much for watching today.
Giant, hairy creature, part ape, part man. Indians call him Sasquatch.